palworld, a video game sensation that came out of nowhere. We hadn't seen an explosive indie game fad like this in years. At its core, it's a survival crafting game, similar to Rust or Ark, currently without the PvP element. But the pals are similar to Pokemon, small, animal-like creatures you capture in spherical devices and use to battle or perform labor for you. It was an instant success, hyped up by streamers and word of mouth. It sold 1 million copies in only 8 hours and 2 million within 24. And as of today, has sold an incredible 25 million copies. However, as I write this script, there were only 14,000 people playing on Steam, whereas Counter-Strike 2 has a whopping 726,000 concurrent players. However, at its peak, palworld had over 2.1 million concurrent players on Steam. This was on January 28, 2024, only 10 days after its release. So what happened between January 28th and today? Is the game dead, hibernating, or something else? This section may contain some theories that are unpopular, but likely the reason the game rose and fell so quickly, and it should be fairly obvious. As a consumer-driven society, the next big thing is always being pushed on us, and the old thing is left behind and discarded. Short-form media content is king, and everybody wants their 15 minutes. We all know how long game design takes, but we all demand constant new content and free updates immediately. Well, let's discuss who made palworld. It's developed by a company called Pocket Pair, whose CEO is a man named Takuro Mizobi, who has Nintendo as a listed previous employer, which is interesting and we'll get into that later. But the company is listed as having less than 50 employees. For reference, Ubisoft has 19,410 current employees. So we can conclude that they are a small indie developer based in Tokyo. As a small company with such a small workforce, they cannot shovel out content at the same speed as the AAA studios. But we are used to this constant stream of updates, so this slow pace can be frustrating to players who have completed all the current content, as well as the streamers who need to constantly show new and exciting things to keep up their viewership numbers. Once the streamers stop playing and move on to the next game, player counts will quickly drop as well. What does this mean then for good indie games? They are all destined to have 15 minutes of fame and then die off? Maybe. It seems to be the way things work. But that might be okay. Maybe it's refreshing to play a game, move on, and then come back once new content is available. I'm not necessarily saying it's a bad thing. The problem is that people are complaining palworld and similar games are not actually good, just fads that got overpopular. The developer of palworld clearly had a lot of passion for the game, and it shows. While it is clearly derivative, it's still fun and has unique aspects. The technical issues may be glaring, but we all had fun playing it, at least for a little while. So what drew people to this game? Well, as previously mentioned, it's a survival crafting game. You need to eat, to sleep, and to survive enemies in the world. There are aggressive pals as well as humans. This kind of game has been very popular. Look at Ark, Rust, DayZ, Green Hell, Raft, and many, many others. There is something satisfying about beating the odds and staying alive. And Pokemon has been one of the most successful franchises of all time. People love the concept. So when you combine these two things, you got yourself a big hit. Well, why am I making this video and not playing the game myself? Why did my friends all stop playing and move on to Helldivers 2? Well, let's talk about some of the limitations of this kind of game. Much of the content of the game is locked behind your character's level, as well as the quality of pals you have captured. This means you have to grind and level up to do many of the game's activities. Many people do not have the time or energy to grind a game for large amounts of time. Private servers can increase EXP rate, but not all of them do this. Now, the game itself runs relatively well, but there are certain users who cannot play this game on their PC, or maybe they just get bad frame rates. Also, the combat may seem janky or clunky, and pathing issues can make pals working in your base frustrating or glitchy. Some people just plain don't like having to craft all of their equipment. Endgame content is lacking. Once you capture all of the pals, there isn't a lot left to do in the game, without PvP or additional pals to strive for. In fact, some people were even offended by the way pals and humans are treated in this game. However, it was done humorously and never takes itself too seriously. Another issue is that this kind of game is a lot more fun with friends, and without a group playing together, things can get dull very quickly. So are people ever going to come back? The developer thinks so. Notice this tweet, which I'll summarize. The community manager, Bucky, states that they feel it's okay to take breaks from games and that they can't put out content super quickly, but they hope users will come back when they do, and that if they don't, it's still okay. But what have they done in the meantime? palworld still has several large updates since it's been released. Many bugs and performance issues were addressed, there were server updates, and they added a raid boss. Not bad in just a few months while they prepare for a more major update. On April 29th, Pocket Pair released a YouTube video at IGN Digital Showcase showing new pals being released in the future, as well as some new looking biomes and locations. There has also been talk of adding player versus player pal battles soon. Now, rough estimates place the profit of palworld to be over $500 million US. With the game being so profitable, it wouldn't make sense to abandon it or shut down its servers, however expensive they may be. As a day one player, I'm excited what the future holds for this bizarre game where you can capture people inside spheres. Many people didn't think this game would last, as they thought its similarities to Pokemon would incur a massive lawsuit from Nintendo. However, this has not happened yet, and it is unlikely to occur at this point. So what is the point of this video? A retrospective that came out only 5 months after the game itself. I'm not sure exactly, but I would like people to not forget this game exists and to keep up to date on the added content. Don't immediately write off games because the next big thing is here. palworld definitely has the makings for a franchise, despite its issues and current waning popularity.